everybody. Hi, I'm Peter from Peter's Living Room here on the World Entertainment and Information Network. And this is going to be one of the best interviews you're going to watch or listen to in a long time. I'm here at Ben's Deli in Boca Raton, Florida. And we're getting ready to eat. And we're getting ready to talk with the director of a movie that will be released starting February 27th called Deli Man. And we're here with director Eric Greenberg, Anjou. How are you, Eric?
I'm really terrific. Thank you for having me. No pressure at all.
No pressure.
The best interview ever.
You know, some people are going to listen to this on the radio show. Some people are going to go and actually watch it on the TV end of the station. And they're going to drool. And I have to tell you, when Jan was setting this up, you know, for us to do, she said, listen, watch this movie, which I had to because I want to talk to you about it. She said, don't eat before you watch the movie. Yeah. And she was right. I watched the movie, I looked at my wife and I said, come on, we've got to go to the Gourmet Deli, or Ben's, or somewhere close. It's
that's the consensus so far. The movie's pretty young in its arc. We had a world premiere at the Boston Jewish Film Festival on November 12th and 14th. Then we were at the New York Jewish Film Festival. We played a couple small. Now we're about to be here at the Palm Beach Jewish Film Festival.
Right.
And the consensus, people come running out of the audience and they're at the screening and they want to go to a deli, which is good.
Well, I have to ask you, just so our listeners know, Deli Man, it's the story. You do follow. You need somebody to follow. You picked the perfect guy. Ziggy Gruber.
Ziggy Gruber.
Kenny and Ziggy's Deli in Houston, Texas.
Born David, become Ziggy.
Okay, right. Well, everybody has, has another name. And the movie does follow him around, and we'll get into the details of what's in the movie. But one of the things, I don't know if it was in the press notes or in something that I read, it could have been your notes on the website, saying, watch this movie, eat the food, just don't tell your cardiologist. Right? Where did the idea on your end come up saying, I'm going to do this movie?
It came in two different sparks. The first was when I first met Ziggy, which was in Houston. I've been involved in making movies about Jewish culture, Jewish tradition, Jewish cultural continuity. And one of these movies is about a wonderful Grammy Award-winning band, the Klezmatics.
Right.
I was in Houston.
Which did you win a Grammy or something for that? Or an Emmy?
They won a Grammy.
They won, that's
for a wonderful album called Wonder Wheel, lyrics by Woody Guthrie. Okay. They won in 2007, I believe.
Yeah.
So this movie was the story about the Klezmatics arc. They're now almost 30 years old as a Jewish klezmer band, an incredible achievement.
Right.
Anyway, we were in Houston. I was filming. We were screening the movie, and Ziggy actually hosted the screening of the movie at the local JCC, at the Houston Jewish Film Festival. That's how we were first introduced.
Yeah, all right. And
one of the great things, if I can plug Ziggy, because I will, is if the movie is...
I can't wait to meet Ziggy. I was hoping he would come in for this.
He's a character of characters, the mensch of mensches. And not only... Ziggy's one of these guys, he walks the walk. He just doesn't talk the talk. And he's really intimately involved with his Jewish community. He sponsors all different things, he does things, he donates. So he sponsored our movie, our Klezmatics movie at that film festival.
But, you know, we're talking about Ziggy. Ziggy's what, in his 40s?
43, I believe. Maybe 42. Ziggy.
Okay, so he's in his 40s. And here's a guy that went to Europe. He grew up in the deli world, but he went to Europe, became training, you know, class A, whatever you call it, chef. I mean, top-notch chef. And he says he realized that with the Jewish delis around the country that were one by one disappearing, everybody who owned them were in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and if it wasn't for him, they're going to die out. And his purpose in life was to keep the tradition alive.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that we chose to investigate in the documentary was that, so I talked about the different sparks that were involved in beginning the movie, and one of them was meeting Ziggy, but another spark was reading David Sachs's book, Save the Deli.
Yeah.
And there's a staggering statistic in that book. I think he also borrowed from a gentleman, Ted Merwin, who's an associate professor of Jewish studies at Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and rough estimate, thousands, 2,000 to 3,000 kosher delicatessens in the 5 boroughs of New York in the 1930s. Now, perhaps 150 kosher and kosher style Jewish delicatessens of all of North America.
Right.
How does this happen?
Right.
You know, how did we see such a diminution? And one of the ways that Jewish delis are staying alive is through kind of the family to family, generation to generation transference. So Ziggy is one of these guys, you know, that like took it upon himself. It was his, yes, his adherence to Jewish food, but also this really intimate family tradition. He took a personal responsibility. He did not want to see this piece of family, cultural, culinary tradition die.
Right. And you know, it's funny, and I don't know how popular it is in other ethnic backgrounds. You know, I was a Jewish kid in New York, and to this day, it's my grandmother's latkes. Nobody makes latkes or balinces like my grandma.
Absolutely.
And when you come, to the Jewish deli, it's very rare that they're a big corporate thing. I can only think of one that recently had multiple locations and actually sold out corporately. It's family owned.
Completely.
Just as Ziggy took over his, it's, you know, it's, you've got to eat this. This is my grandma's recipe. And that carries on from generation to generation.
You're only as good as your last meal.
Yeah.
You know, and if that dish that you serve to someone that maybe traveled from a distant location or maybe just your neighborhood, maybe it's the person that comes in there every day, it's got to taste exactly like they remember, exactly like that great piece of kishka they had last week.
Right.
The same thing for filmmaking. You know, if something in the movie doesn't work, I can't blame it on anybody else.
Right.
You know, we decided in the editing room where the cut came.
Right.
You know, which line to use, which line not to use. It's a very similar consonance.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's tough. You know, I do have to ask you. You went around doing all these interviews and everything else, and you hit all these delis. Did you gain weight during the process? I mean, I'm looking at the table.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the table here, and this is like, boys, just a little mush, you know?
Well, thanks to you and your program and this wonderful radio platform, this is CGI, right? We're shot against a green screen.
Right. Yeah.
So we're all going to be 15 pounds lighter when the interview actually...
Should only happen.
We had the best fed crew in America.
Yeah.
You know, you go in, you shoot, you do your interviews, you do your principal photography, and every deli owner-operator wants his food to be the best, and they want you to try everything, and we did.
All right. Well, good for you. You know, when it comes to documentaries, and I've interviewed a lot of people, you know, documentary filmmakers, I'm always impressed, and in this case more so, the archival footage. Now this movie traces the whole growth and, I don't want to say the fall, but the disappearance, the reduction in the Jewish delicatessens across the country. But you go back to the late 1800s when the immigrants first came in, and there were like, what, 2,000 of them just in New York City?
That came a little bit later. I would say kind of maybe the first decade or two of the 20th century is when things really began to take off. Prior to that, there were a lot of very little shops. It was impossible to measure exactly how many. But this is, again, a way for newly arrived immigrants to make a buck.
Yeah.
They weren't sit-down places. They were basically just storefronts. And little by little, a table, 2 tables, 3 tables were added. This thing that became known as this modern Jewish colossal, the Jewish deli, really didn't kick in until, I would say, the 30s and the 40s, especially the post-World War II years. When there was also a degree of wealth, you know, entering the Jewish community.
One thing that I learned was when these stores first opened up, it was more of an ethnic way of the immigrants being able to eat food that they were familiar with back in the old country.
Yes.
So it wasn't like they took a Jewish menu and said, here. They actually created a culinary delight.
I think it happened in stages. I mean, this amazing spread we're seeing in front of us. We're seeing corned beef, you know, pastrami, stuffed cabbage,
you can pick
chicken
at it
soup.
If you want while we're
I'm
talking.
starting to get hungry just speaking the words. Different strains of the culinary traditions came from different places in the Jewish journey. So pastrami was pretty much a Romanian thing.
Right.
You know, if you're from Lithuania or maybe from Poland, you would never tasted pastrami before. But as neighborhoods grew, as different traditions began to encroach and touch upon one another, we started to incorporate, you know, every Jewish deli started to have the same items, but I don't think it started that way. There's a wonderful writer and comedian, Michael Wex. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with his work. Born to Kvetch, Just Say New. He's been a New York Times bestseller. And David states that there's only maybe 2 dishes that we know now that are actually traditional Jewish food.
Yeah.
You know, everything else has basically been co-opted or developed because the Jews have been an exilic population.
Yeah.
So they take a little bit from different cultures, they add in, they develop, and then ultimately these things became an American Jewish cuisine. But again, that was more towards the beginning of the 20th century.
The other thing that Jewish cuisine, deli foods, and I think it was Jackie Mason used to talk, and he used to talk about, you know, you go to, and no disrespect or anything like it, but you go to a restaurant, a Gentile restaurant, and you get a nice little sandwich, and it fits on the plate very nicely. He said, and then you go to a Jewish restaurant. You can't put your mouth on this. I mean, that's, what do they call it, a gesundheit?
This is,
right? And now I grew up in New York, so I went into Manhattan, and I lived in Manhattan for years. It was, go to the Carnegie.
Absolutely.
Carnegie Deli, whose sandwich is about, what do you say, about 8 inches high?
Yes, yes.
Right?
These are monstrous.
And if the line was too long, walk 2 blocks to the stage. One of those, you know, you'll get in within the hour, basically.
Well, the stage and the Carnegie, I mean, these were these owner-operators that weren't just deli men anymore. They were kind of real stage theatrical presences. I think it started with Max Asness.
Yes.
He was the guy, you know, at the stage. And then as Max, he died prematurely. And then the Carnegie Deli began to gain prominence. And again, these huge sandwiches that we've come to associate with, like the Jewish delicatessen, these weren't the sandwiches that you were eating, you know, in 1870 on the Lower East Side. And part of it was a kind of a showmanship. You know, we're better than you. And like if you walk out of a delicatessen and you just said you would not to all your friends, you would not believe the size. Not only was it delicious, but look at the size.
Right.
You tell all your friends, and all of a sudden they're coming in. You know, from Poughkeepsie, from Harrisburg, from wherever, and everybody wants to kind of like be a part of this and talk about this experience.
They actually became on the tour. I mean, your friends came in from out of town. Well, in New York, at least, you took them to Lincoln Center. You went to Times Square. You went to the Carnegie of the stage.
It's part of the New York experience.
Yeah. Now, New York, which I guess is known for it, and I guess the names that popped on me again on Carnegie, the stage, the Second Avenue Deli. I used to order from the Second Avenue Deli. I lived in the Upper West Side, and I had a car also. I would drive downtown, pick up my food, and take it back home. You know, that's you know, liking the food. That's being addicted. But it's not only New York City. I mean, with the migration, the growth of the United States, and then in particular Jewish people moving out of the urban into the rural and the suburbs, that helped open up more, or did that kill?
I think both. I think I mean, there's certain deli cities, like I would say Detroit. I would say before Ziggy arrived in Houston, there were a handful of delicatessens, but none of them are prominent. There's a relatively new place out in, I believe it's Portland, Kenny and Zook's. That's just fantastic. You know, obviously Los Angeles has a very proud and passionate deli population.
Famous deli in LA?
The big ones in LA are Cantor's, Nate and Al,
Nate and Al,
Brent's.
okay.
These guys are just as, you know, I'm an East Coaster, so I have a built-in prejudice about deli, and this is that Flavish Finkel says, quoting George Burns in the movie Deli Man, once you hit Newark, you're on the road. You know, if you come from New York, then New York is the epis, right?
Right, definitely. And again, you know, I'm like you, I'm an East Coast, I'm a New York born and raised. So whenever I lived or I traveled, I used to travel a lot. It was like, Nah, they can't have a Jewish deli here. It's not New York. How could they do it?
Well, Toronto, huge deli town.
Huge Jewish population too, considering.
We've had a couple comments, a couple Montrealers have hit me up already. Well, why isn't the Snowden? Why isn't Lester's? Why isn't Schwartz's in the movie?
Yeah.
The answer is we ran out of money. I mean, these are great delis up in Montreal. But I think, looping back to your question, I think it's really a complex, especially because everything has changed economically, demographically. One of the reasons why deli owner-operators are having such a difficult time right now is because meat prices, are through the roof. And there's a huge proportion of the briskets, of the pieces of meat that are going over to the Japanese, going over to Asia. They're paying top dollar. So, the companies want to make a buck, right? So certain owner-operators here are really challenged in terms of the economics of actually serving a great sandwich. I think part of the keys to survival are being ingenious and really knowing your demographic. I mean, no one, I would say, 10, 15 years ago could have predicted that a guy like Ziggy, I'm prejudiced of course, would be running one of the best delis in the country out of Houston, Texas. But he knows what his populace wants, and a combination of that, his verve, his personality, and his culinary skills. This is a guy that brings everything to the table. He's a wonderful chef as much as he is a wonderful schmoozer. So there's nothing that he's lacking as a deli man.
There's something else. I don't want to say it's an intangible, but you brought this out very well in the movie, especially with Ziggy as that main focus. And it's so true in a lot of Jewish businesses.
Can I eat a pickle?
Oh, definitely. I was going to say,
is this doable
you keep looking, and it's like, listen,
enough is enough
we're talking. It's okay. Eat. What is it? Eat, Tatala. Eat.
If I'm crunching too hard, you let me know.
People that work, be it the Jewish deli, Jewish businesses, they're usually treated like their family. And one thing that you brought out, in fact, Ziggy was hugging, I don't know, one guy, definitely not Jewish, I don't know if he was Puerto Rican, Mexican, he was Hispanic, and he said he's the best, I don't know, he made the brisket from scratch, the way, he's the best, and they're all family, and they look out for each other, they take care of each other.
Absolutely.
And you don't work there for 6 months and move on. You work there for 60 years.
Well, I think it happens on every different level, this type of intimacy and community we're talking about. In terms of, employer-employee, let's take Ziggy for an example. The guys he's hiring are largely, they may or may not be becoming American citizens, but they're not coming from the United States.
Right.
They're coming from south of the border.
Right.
They don't know kasha varnikas from a taco.
Right. They don't know what kishka is either.
All of this has to be trained, built into their culinary and their skill set, and it can't taste like it comes from Mexico City.
Right.
Like you said, it has to come from your grandmother's kitchen. If it doesn't, your customer's not going to come back. So it's about the cooking, but it's about the ambience, it's about the care, it's about the love, and everything kind of goes into the crucible, and treating people the right way, but also making them care and take pride in what they do, and making sure that they're cooking just as well as Ziggy learned how to cook. It also happens on the owner to customer level. There's people that come in there and eat at Kenny and Ziggy's or maybe other delicatessens every single day.
Right.
And as often what happens with documentary films, the real film is happening when the camera is off,
right?
Of course. And after we had a wonderful shooting day at Kenny and Ziggy's in Houston, I was just kibitzing with a woman who was a cancer survivor, had gone up through some really unspeakably rough stuff, and she was sitting in the vestibule before entering the restaurant, and she said, Ziggy Gruber saved my life with his chicken soup.
No, really?
And we fed her, take care of her when she was too sick to come into the restaurant, make sure she had the food she wanted at home. Yeah, so that's all part of the Jewish deli experience. It's not just a place that you go to visit, eat, and don't have some type of emotional experience.
Well, I have to tell you, the people that go and see this movie, if they grew up and frequented a Jewish deli anywhere, whether it was New York or Houston or Detroit or down in South Florida, they're gonna be able to reminisce in their head. You did Ben's, which of course I know. You did Berger's Deli in 47th Street in Manhattan. I used to eat breakfast there every day with my dad. Every day. On occasion, we'd go down lunchtime. Lunch we usually spread around if we were able to get out. So there is going to be a lot of nostalgia aspect, to people when they're in the movie theater watching this going, oh, I used to sit in that booth right over there,
Absolutely. Jack Labelwall, who's the owner of Second Avenue Deli, and the brother of Abe Labelwall, who, of blessed memory, was tragically murdered. Jack tells a story in the movie. He's talking with Fivish Finkel, and he's reminiscing.
The old Jewish theater.
Oh, Fivish is just a wonderful, what a gem.
What's he, like 94 or
93
something?
years old.
93.
93 years old, and still sharper than I am. But Jack tells a story about a man and his son that used to come into the Second Avenue Deli and eat every day, and the waitress used to come up to them and tell them what they were going to eat. With the fries or without a fries, or if they put on a couple pounds, she would basically commandeer their meal, because it's just not coming in for a meal, it's coming in to be part of a home environment. And the people that work at the deli know you as intimately as perhaps your own family members.
There is that scene, and I remember it well, where he said he came in, he really wanted a tongue sandwich. He came in and she said, today you're going to have the pastrami, it's really good. I'm going to give you a little chicken soup with that, and the latkes today are out of this world.
And no desserts, you're gaining weight.
Right, exactly. Exactly. When you go into the history of it, and people, reminisce, and they go back, and you are going to stir up memories. And one of the other things that the Jewish deli was known for is the characters. I mean, the waiters, the old Jewish waiters, and the guy behind the deli counter cutting the meat and fish and everything, were as much a part of the culinary experience as the food itself.
Completely.
Yeah. And I don't remember if Ziggy talks about that, or if you cover that in the movie at all.
Ziggy, well, in editing the movie, of course, we wanted to give Ziggy his star moments, but we also wanted to be as inclusive as possible. And so many people that are a part of the deli tradition and experience have their tales to take. I mean, going back to Fivish, he talks about this experience every time he used to go into the Second Avenue Deli. He used to have the same waiter. There was a kind of subtle level of detestation between them. Fivish wanted one thing, but the waiter would never let him have it. And the chicken, try the chicken, but the pot roast, it looks so beautiful, he said. That kind of thing. So it's kind of a, I don't know whether it's an inherently Jewish thing, but it's kind of this love-hate, kibitzing attitude type of thing that, the same thing you might get from a family member at your own home table, you're also getting that same attitude from the slicer, from the waiter. It's home.
There used to be on the Lower East Side, it was a dairy restaurant, Ratner's.
Of course.
I used to meet my folks there once a month. They wanted to go to the Lower East Side. The pickle guy, Yonah Schimmel's for knishes, the towel guy, and I would meet them. God forbid I was 5 minutes late. I would come in, I would sit down, and the waiter, Morris. I could picture Morris in my head. Morris had to be, back then, he had to be 70 years old, definitely out of shape. And he would look at me and yell at me for making my parents wait.
There you go.
I loved it. It was great. February 27th.
Yes.
You're opening, I know you're opening in South Florida. And may I?
Please.
We've got in Miami, you've got the Cosford movie theaters, you've got AMC at Sunset Place in Aventura, you've got the Classic Gateway in Fort Lauderdale, you've got the Last Picture Show in Tamarack, you've got the Shadowwood, the Regal Shadowwood in Boca, you've got the Living Room in Boca at FAU, great theater, you've got the movies of Del Rey, the movies of Lake Worth. I know there are more, and it's opening. It will be opening up all across the country, correct?
On February 27th, yes.
All right. Now, your website. You need me to read it, or do you know what it is? www.delimanmovie.com. That's right.
That I have to update after this interview. Thanks to you.
Okay. Well, you will definitely. Facebook, Deli Man Movie on Facebook.
No, that's cruel. Let's stand.
Okay, we'll stand.
Let's stand. That's cruel. I'm not a size 2. I can't sit in the chair. Stay on the chair in front because that's just, you know, stuff. Now this doesn't look as good.
Whenever you're ready. So we're here at Ben's Deli in Boca Raton, Florida. I'm here with Rachel Stone. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, great to see you.
Great to see you. And we've been doing an interview for the movie that's coming out, Deli Man, which Ben's happens to be in.
Absolutely, and we're so glad to give you a little feast, a little taste that you can only see through the TV.
This was one of the best interviews I've ever done. I don't usually get to eat and talk at the same time. But let our listeners know, you're here in Boca Raton. It's what, Clintmore and...
We're on the corner of Clintmore and 441. We've been here over 10 years now. We had to follow our New York friends down here because everybody moved. So we've seen old friends and new friends down here for years and years. We look forward to meeting new people as well.
All right, so did you, were you lucky enough to get into the movie Deli Man?
No, I don't believe I was.
No.
No, that's okay.
Maybe the sequel. All right, you know what? Phone number, website for the Ben's has a website, right?
Absolutely. Our website is bensdeli.net. And here we are on 441 in Clintmore in Boca. You can call us at 470-9963 for anything you need. We make a beautiful lunch at the table or a big catered event for your family at home, whatever you need.
I'm looking at the table, and that could have catered a whole family at home.
No, that was just for 2 people.
Yeah, right.
I was told 2 people.
Right. What did they say? A gazunta sandwich, huh?
I hope you enjoyed it all.
We did. Thank you. And thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you go online, check out Deli Man the movie. And it opens February 27th all over the country. Thank you. I'm Peter from Peter's Living Room here on the World Entertainment Information Network. And maybe I'll see you at Ben's Deli sometime.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, everybody.
Is that all right?
You did
Do you want to do it
great.
again?
You did great.
All right?
Right.
I touched my face. I'm sorry.
All right, take 5.
No, I knew as soon as I did that, I touched my face. You never supposed to do it on TV, right? It's okay. Thank you. That was fun. Thank you. Good? And that's all Tupperware for you. Take things home.
Did I give you my card?
Time flies.
Yeah, it's been 27 minutes.
Talking food.
Yeah, right there. Whenever you're ready. Okay, so on YouTube, people couldn't see the trailer.
Yes.
For the movie, and I guess just go to YouTube and Deli Man movie, and it'll pop
Go
up.
to Deli Man Movie, go to the website. You can also
Right.
find us on the website of Cohen Media Group. I mean, I'm blessed right now to be working with such a passionate
You know
distributor.
what? Great. I did an interview. I wonder, is it David or Richard? One of the Cohens.
Charles Cohen
Maybe it was Sean.
is the owner of Cohen Media Group.
Okay.
Daniel Batsek is the
No, it was
president.
Cohen.
Gary Rubin.
Anyway, but I'm impressed. They really have, for independent films, Jewish-themed movies and documentaries, they really are passionate and produce great stuff.
I am living the documentary filmmaker's dream in the sense you told me, Peter, that you've spoken with a lot of documentarians and you spend years in the editing room fundraising, trying to get these things going, hoping that the film will reach the light of day on 1 or 2 or 3 screens. And now this movie's going to open on, who knows, 15 to 20 on February 27th. So it's a phenomenal opportunity.
Well, needless to say, wish you luck. Everybody should go out. Well, you don't have to be Jewish to love Jewish delis, and this is definitely a movie to go see, to get your taste buds salivating and get ready. Just like you said, don't tell your cardiologist that you're going for the food. I want to thank you, Eric Goldberg. Greenberg.
But gold is good.
Right.
Gold's
Gold
a good
is
color.
good. Anjou.
Yes.
Deli Man the movie. And I think in honor of Ziggy, there's no better way to end this interview is with a bite of some deli.
To break bread, to break
bread.
pastrami, but you can't have pastrami without the deli mustard. You got to do this.
A little bit of that.
And thank you to Ronnie Dragoon and Ben's Kosher
Right.
for this. We get to try and eat it.
There we go, everybody.
L'chaim.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Peter. This is great. Okay.
Perfect.
Good. Please.